You're live, Mr. Chair.
Good morning, everyone. Committee members, public, welcome to our IAC meeting. We have a roll call, please.
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ms. Avara?
Present.
Superintendent Chaudhry is not with us yet. Secretary Churchill is not with us yet. Ms. Eberhardt?
Present.
Mr. Gibbons?
Present.
Ms. Lala?
Present.
Mr. Lombardo is absent. Secretary McCord is here. And Chair Casemeyer.
Thank you. Okay, well, before we begin the meeting, I was going to ask and introduce our new superintendent of schools. And as soon as he's on the scene, we'll welcome him and give him an opportunity to say a few words to us. So let me know when that occurs. So let's move to the consent agenda first. Are there any suggestions, corrections, improvements to the consent agenda? Okay. Let's move to the first item of discussion. Number 2, approval of Built to Learn program. Cassandra?
Mr. Chair, can we get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Oh, sure.
Thank you.
All in favor of the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank
It's
you.
unanimous. And Mr. Chair, you have Superintendent Chaudhry has joined us.
Mr. Chaudhry, on behalf of the IAC, myself, and the state of Maryland, we want to welcome you as our new superintendent, and we're excited to have you and looking forward to great things. I'd like to give you the opportunity, if you would like to say a few words to us upon your arrival from Texas, and I guess it was the great city of San Antonio. So welcome.
There isn't much. I don't want to hold up the meeting, but welcome. Thank you for having me. I'm looking forward to diving into the work of this important group. I know there's a lot of work to be done to modernize our facilities and really make them future ready. It's an area that's very fresh in my mind, coming from school districts that had some of the oldest buildings, and just updating them and getting to where we need to get to. So those things are not obstacles for our teachers, principals, and students. So I'm looking forward to it and engaging with everyone here, and hoping to continue to do great work. So thank you so much. And I don't want to hold up the meeting. So
not at all.
Let's definitely move forward. And thank you for welcoming me.
Surely. Well, thank you for being here, and we're really excited to have you in Maryland. Wish you the very best. Okay.
Secretary Churchill has joined us also. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Good morning, Secretary. Okay, let's move to item 2, approval of Built to Learn program. Cassandra?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. We are starting on page 84, which is the adoption of the Built to Learn Act memorandum. The Built to Learn Act was enacted in February of 2021 and provides for the Maryland Stadium Authority to issue special revenue bonds to fund school construction projects approved by the IAC. Before those bonds can be sold, statute requires that the IAC and the Maryland Stadium Authority enter into a program memorandum of understanding, which is what you see in your material. This is the governing document, which will be followed by MOUs between the LEAs and the MSA for each project that's approved for the program. IAC staff and MSA staff, who I would like to mention are on the call if you have any questions that you want to direct to them, have been working together on the attached draft for quite a while. The terms that are in the MOU were largely prescribed by the Built to Learn Act. And I would also like to note that the draft of the MOU has been reviewed by our AAG, Elliot, who's on the call, as well as MSA's legal counsel. Projects under the MOU will either be executed by the MSA, they'll actually manage the projects, or with MSA's agreement, may be executed by the LEA themselves. I would draw your attention to page 104 of the agenda, where you'll see Schedule A. which defines the responsibilities of each party for an MSA managed project. This is a more condensed version of the terms that are in the MOU. You can clearly see the timeline of a project, how those move through the flow, and who's responsible for each part. Schedule B, which starts on page 110, does the same for projects that are managed by the LEA. So we are just starting to get this program off the ground. In May, you all did a preliminary approval of 10 projects. And in the next agenda item number 3, you will hear a recommendation of the staff to approve 4 more. This is a really big program, and there will be many, many more approvals to come. If you approve the MOU today, the next step is that it will go to the Maryland Stadium Authority for their approval. And I just wanted to note that in addition to bringing you project approvals on a regular basis, these do occur on a rolling basis versus the CIP, which happened one time a year. We're also going to bring you regular updates on this program, starting with a review of the program's implementation at your next meeting in August. So with that, Mr. Chair, I can stand for questions or I can read the proposed motion.
Any questions for Cassandra? Okay, what is the motion?
The motion, Mr. Chair, is to approve the Built to Learn Act of 2020 Program Memorandum of an Understanding between the IAC and the Maryland Stadium Authority.
Do I hear a motion? Second? Motion by Mr. Gibson. Second by, got a couple people, Ms. Vera.
Thank you.
Any more discussion on this motion? Okay, all in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Any abstentions? So moved. Thank you. Okay, let's move to item 3, additional FY 2022 Built to Learn project approvals. Arabia, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Good morning. I'm Arabia Davis, the Funding Programs Manager for the IAC. Joining me is the Deputy Director of Field Operations, who will go over the summary list of potential Built to Learn projects. And also joining us is Senior Regional Facilities Manager Brett, who will be available to answer any technical questions regarding the school construction projects being presented today or in the queue for future funding consideration. Cassandra provided a background information. I'm just going to reiterate what she said. As background, the Built to Learn Act of 2020 authorizes the IAC to approve school construction projects on a rolling basis. Staff anticipates that recommendations for approval of BTL projects will be brought forth to the LEA, to the Commission, as needed on a monthly basis. The Act further authorizes the Maryland Stadium Authority, MSA, to sell revenue bonds up to $2.8 billion. 2.2, I apologize. However, until the final amount of available debt service payments needed to support the bonds is determined, all current recommended allocations are based on the estimated available funding of $1.8 billion. The inclusion of planning, design, furniture, and fixture costs as eligible expenses also included in the Act is just another step in the right direction that ensures that students and other building occupants are housed in school facilities that are well-designed, healthy, and safe. In May, staff in partnership with the Maryland Stadium Authority, MSA, recommended the approval of the first round of Built to Learn projects for counties assigned specific percentages. For today's meeting, we're recommending approval for projects submitted by Carroll and Charles counties. These 2 counties, along with 15 other local education agencies, LEAs, have been assigned in the Act to share 11.5% of the total available funding, which is estimated to be $207 million. The allocations being split amongst the local education agencies have been capped proportional to each LEA's September 2019 enrollments. This approach was taken to ensure that the dollars were fairly distributed until we fully understand the total pool of projects that can utilize the funding. We have also developed a minimum threshold of $4 million for capital maintenance or systemic renovation projects, with the hope that the project will sufficiently improve learning environments for the students, but also ensure the affordability of the state's facilities portfolio as a whole. In consultation with the IAC partners, stakeholders, local education agencies, Maryland Stadium Authority, regional facility managers, Maryland State Department of Education, Maryland Department of Planning, Department of General Service, as well as other members of the IAC. The project selection process included analyzing project submissions for enrollment eligibility, cash flow needs, scope sufficiency, planning and design progress to determine project readiness. The IAC computation worksheet is the tool used by staff to calculate the maximum gross area baseline, which is the eligible square footage that the state can support, and develop the estimated budgets for construction, new construction, and renewal projects. Copies of the worksheets are included in your meeting packet in information item 1I. The Hillsmere Elementary School worksheet will be presented at the August meeting. The IAC supports the approval. If the IAC supports the approval of the 4 projects presented here today, the number of project applications approved for BTL funding increases from 10 to 14. You'll notice in Table 1 that the estimated project budget for Carroll County's Westminster East Middle School Replacement Project is $24.4 million. However, the LEA's allocation is capped at $23.8 million. Although the estimated budget is higher, funding through the Build to Learn program will never exceed the targeted allocation. LEAs that fall in this scenario will be given the option to combine the BTL funding, Build to Learn funding, with funding from the Capital Improvement Program to make the projects whole. Charles County's situation is slightly different, as their project request is less than their allocation. The remaining balance can be applied to projects in their queue that are eligible and ready to move forward. If there are no questions, I'm going to turn it over to Alex.
Alex?
Thank you, Arabia.
You're welcome.
Good morning, Chair and members of the Commission. The 4 projects presented to you today for your approval as FY 2022 Build to Learn Act projects will be followed by more projects over the coming months as your staff works with all of the LEAs to identify additional projects that they propose to receive Build to Learn funds. Each project proposed needs to be solid and well defined as to its scope, budget, and timing before it can be approved for state funding. Fortunately, because Build to Learn approvals occur on a rolling basis, we will be able to regularly bring projects to you for approval as soon as they're ready to go. Staff are developing and maintaining a list of potential projects that LEAs are considering for Build to Learn funding. Due to their development stage, many of these projects will require more work and discussion with IAC staff, as well as solid concurrence or approvals at the LEA and county levels before they can be submitted to you for approval. However, we thought that it would be helpful to present a forecast based upon the information we've received to date from the LEAs. The table in Part A on page 123 of your agenda shows the 10 projects that you approved in May and the 4 being presented now for your initial approval today, with a potential to adjust the dollar amounts in the future as needed. The total estimated cost of these projects is about $852 million, with an estimated $284 million of that cost to be paid out of Build to Learn funds. The table in Part B lists the projects and dollar amounts currently being considered for possible Build to Learn funding requests in the near future. Where a project is close enough to readiness to qualify for a Build to Learn grant, and the LEA is comfortable earmarking part of its allocation to that specific project, the project name is listed here. Where projects are not yet certain enough or require more development, their dollar values are aggregated into one entry for that LEA. The total estimated cost of these projects is about $2.7 billion, with nearly 1.2 of that cost to come from Build to Learn funds. All told, the projects currently being considered for potential Build to Learn funding roll up to nearly $1.5 billion of MSA's conservatively estimated $1.8 billion program value. MSA may increase the total amount available if revenues support doing so, and we will continue to work with the LEAs to form viable projects for all funds available. Here with me to answer any questions you might have today is Senior Regional Facilities Manager Brett Waskowitz, who, with our other regional facilities managers, is working to support the LEAs in the project development process. We now stand for any questions, or Arabia can read the motion.
Any questions? Secretary McCord.
Yes, I just would like to clarify that the Stadium Authority is projecting $1.8 billion to make sure it can handle the debt service on that. So that's what your target is right now, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So it's $2.2 billion authorized, but the 1.8 is the conservative way to go about it to make sure the debt service can be handled. Just want to make that clear. And then the other question is, how do these projects compare to the LEA's priority rankings for other things that we've seen them request of the IAC? And is that something that, are we now meeting lower level priority projects, or are we meeting projects that are new to their program? Just wanted to ask for that clarification.
Alex, go ahead, and then or Brett, and then I'll fill in.
Sure, thank you. The LEAs are presenting to the IAC and working with us collaboratively to identify which projects fit which funding stream best, or it's certainly possible that a project may be funded from Built to Learn and regular CIP program dollars if needed. And so these are high priority projects for the LEAs. And in some cases, what had been top priority projects for the CIP that fit the Built to Learn Act are being presented now for Built to Learn or planned for Built to Learn funds. That will free up CIP dollars that had been earmarked for those projects for other next priority projects. So we will be getting farther down the priority listing for the LEAs with these additional funds.
I'll say that we have a lot of to be determines, you noticed on the presentation, because as these dollars are available now, and certainly there was speculation that they would be available even last year, it's hard to take a project of a high need and turn it into a really well-scoped, ready-to-go project that needs funding in a few months. So priorities can change depending on the amount of dollars that are available. These new dollars have allowed high priority projects within the LEAs to actually, that were their high priority that they couldn't do right now, they've been able to begin to consider them and move them forward, where they were, even though they're high priority, they were not being asked for because the dollars that they could get through the CIP program were not sufficient to be able to make those projects move forward. So this is the priority is set by the LEAs, but the dollar amounts and the expectations of the dollar amount are hugely important. And what's really neat about this program is that it now gives a clear expectation of what funding is going to be available in the future years, so that those priorities can be well aligned and well planned, and therefore easily and efficiently delivered.
Any other questions? Secretary Churchill.
Yes, thank you. I appreciate that information.
Arabia and Adam, I just want to make sure I understand on the maximum BTL projections, because the only project really that hasn't been maxed out on the proposed list today is in Charles County, the Maurice J. McDonough High School renovation, which, if I'm reading the chart correctly, the maximum BTL would be $12 million. Approved cost at this point under the motion is $9.1 million. It would leave about $3 million in under that BTL ceiling. So what you're saying is that $3 million could be used on this project, or it could be used on another project within the LEA's priority list. Am I reading that correct?
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
Go ahead, Arabia.
No. Yes.
So
Correctly.
for Charles County, McDonough can be fully funded. The state's portion can be fully funded through Built to Learn Act project. With Charles County La Plata High School further down, that project's only going to receive partial BTL funding because it's going to fall into the same category as East Middle and Carroll County did. But McDonough is currently scheduled for 12 million in BTL, 7.7 in fiscal 22, and the remainder in fiscal 23.
Yes, that's my understanding. But where you've maxed out, the chart reflects the max BTL also in your table 1. So you've satisfied my question. I understand those additional funds can be applied to another project. So
right.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? Arabia, you want to present the motion?
Yes. To approve the fiscal year 2022 Build to Learn projects as presented in this item with an estimated budget of $37.898 million and authorize staff to make budget adjustments based upon final project review and worksheet updates.
Do I hear a motion?
Move, Mr. Chairman, Gloria Lawler.
And second by Ms. Everhart. Any more discussion? Very good explanation, by the way. Thank you. All in favor of the motion, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries.
It's unanimous.
Item number 4, adoption of FY 2023 and 2024 state cost share percentages. Wanda, welcome.
Good morning, Chair and board members. On March 11th, 2021, the IAC staff presented to the Commission fiscal year 2023 and 2024 state cost share percentages as calculated per the formula in COMAR. The results can be found on page 126 through 136 of the agenda. The decision to approve the results of the calculations was postponed until further information was available on State Bill 551. The enactment of State Bill 551 this year, to paraphrase, requires the IAC staff to hold harmless counties that would have otherwise experienced a decrease under the formula calculated. Table 1 on page 125 of the agenda reflects these results. The IAC staff recommends the state cost share percentage applicable to fiscal year 2023 and 2024 be adopted as presented. Are there any questions, or can I read the motion?
Any questions? Read the motion, please.
The motion is to adopt the fiscal year 2023 and fiscal year 2024 state cost share percentages as calculated based upon the formula in COMAR 14.39.02.05.
Thank you. Hear anybody make a motion? Ms. Everhart, second. Ms. Avera. Any more discussion? All in favor of the motion, raise your hand and say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
It's unanimous.
Item number 5, revised FY 2023 state cost per square foot.
Good morning again. On April 29, 2021, the IAC staff recommended and the Commission approved FY 2023 statewide per square foot school construction cost at $353 per square foot for building only and $421 per square foot for building with site development. In light of new information from national and regional resources, the IAC staff recommends an increase of 5% escalation cost as opposed to the 3.5% increase previously recommended. The revised cost per square foot would increase to $358 per square foot for building only and $426 per square foot for building with site development. Are there any questions, or can I read the motion?
Could I make a comment before you go to the motion, Mr. Chair? We watch the economy pretty closely and listen to those economists that are trying to project out. And just a few months back, it looked like the delays that we had on delivery of materials and that were temporary, and that they would come up to speed. But as we've come out of COVID, it's not happening that way. From the points of watching things like iron ore that was very high, it's now dropped back to a reasonable amount. But the cost of steel didn't do the same because the processing of that raw material is not working out for a lot of different reasons. There's a labor shortage is a big one within the plants and that, and then even to the delivery of, if we do have materials, getting them delivered to the site and the delays that are being caused. So I just want to give you a heads up that we may have to adjust again. But if we do, can adjust back down once we get back to normal. But we're going to be putting a lot of work on the streets through this program, and we're just going to have to watch this very carefully. Of course, we do not want to underfund a project. We want to properly fund it so that they don't get stalled out for any reason. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Ms. Everhart.
Yes. You just said it could be adjusted down, but it could also be adjusted up. Is that correct? That's correct.
I mean, we would do that before we make recommendations. However, I want to qualify by saying we changed the COMAR previously, recognizing that projects we don't want a project that's begun to run out of money because when they go to bid, it's just not a reasonable amount. So you've authorized us to provide you've given us the authority to use prudence as we are looking at projects that may have come in high to determine whether it came in high because of issues that could not be helped, such as the economy, or whether it could be rebid or redesigned to bring the scoping in. And we do that. And you know that we've brought projects back to you to authorize additional funding so that those projects can keep moving, which is what we want, so that the kids can be in good environments as quickly as possible. That's our job. So all of these projects, as we are making authorizations, we may, if we need to, we may bring them back. If they bid and they come in at a lesser amount, those dollars will just revert back for use by the IAC to allocate to those counties. Or in the case of the 11.5%, those 17 LEAs that are sharing that 11.5%, it would go back to the pool so that you could allocate it back to whoever had the next priority that you wish to fund.
Gibbons.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Bob. We're experiencing the same type of cost issues in the private sector, so this isn't a surprise. My question would be, we do think it's temporary. We've seen a lot of volatility from month to month, having to do with materials and labor. Mm-hmm. But like Ms. Everhart said, you said it could go up, it could go down. I just want to make sure that we are disciplined, and when we get through that, like when this gets through the snake, hopefully, that we're disciplined to be able to bring it back down to what we think is the right number. That's my only suggestion.
Mr. Chair and Mr. Gibbons, we absolutely will. We will continue to look at this and make those adjustments so that they are realistic and that the planning for projects can be realistic and effective. We want to have the right amount of money. We want the right size schools. We want to deliver them as quickly as possible. We don't want any snags. And every penny that we don't overspend can be used to help more children. And that's what we are committed to do that.
How often do we review these costs?
I'm on calls with economists in that literally monthly. Interestingly, one big call last week was canceled. And I got the feeling, they said for 4th of July, but I got the feeling there was just so much volatility. Uh-huh. Everybody was not ready to meet. So we're looking at it constantly.
Any other questions for Wanda? Wanda, do you want to read the motion, please?
Yes. To approve the revision of the FY 2023 statewide per square foot school construction cost to $358 per square foot for building only from $353 and to $426 per square foot for building with site development work from 421.
Your motion?
So moved.
Mr. Gibbons, second. Secretary Churchill.
Second.
Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Chair, I'm sorry, Mr. Chowdhury, did you vote in affirmative? Yes, okay, thank you. I didn't see your hand. Thank you, Mr. Chair. It's unanimous.
Okay. Item 6, adoption of CIP instructions. Arabia?
Yes, hello again.
Hi.
In the past, the IAC has provided information regarding the public school construction capital improvement program through several different resources, such as the Administrative Procedures Guidelines, the CIP supplemental instructions, and also in a very detailed memorandum. As staff began to work on making updates and revisions to the APG, it became evident that the CIP instructions will be more useful to local education agencies as a standalone policy document. This action will limit the number of resources the LEAs are required to review as they develop their upcoming CIP submissions. The motion to adopt the new instructions is in line with current processes used for the IAC's other funding initiatives. Generally, guidance is provided to the LEAs by mid-July, and the adoption of these instructions at today's meeting would provide the LEAs with a sufficient amount of time to accurately complete and submit their FY 2023 CIP request for planning, funding, and systemic renovation. I stand for questions.
Any questions for Arabia? Read the motion, Arabia, please.
Yes, the motion is to adopt the new public school construction program, capital improvement program, instruction as presented in this item.
Your motion. Ms. Severa, Mr. Gibbons again, thank you. Says motion, Ms. Severa seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
It's unanimous,
Aye.
Mr. Chair.
Item 7, FY21 School Safety Grant Program. Kim.
Good morning. I'm Kim Spivey. I'm the Deputy Director of Administration. And the item 7 before you this morning is for the approval of the School Safety Grant Program Administrative Procedures Guide, the distribution of the FY 2021 $10 million to the 24 local education agencies and Maryland School for the Blind, and request for approval to delegate authority to the IAC staff and designees to approve eligible projects within these allocations. The Administrative Procedures Guide revisions consist mainly of updates of the COMAR references, web links, and other minor edits for clarification. It should be noted that the $10 million to be allocated to each LEA consists of FY 2021 general funds. Typically, these allocations would have been released last year. However, due to uncertainty of the state budget, the IAC did not release the allocations. The approval by the IAC of this grant funding will allow the local school system to address their needs for school safety and security improvements. The table on page 174 of your agenda provides the total allocation for each LEA. Each LEA's distribution was based upon a combination of their proportion of the full-time equivalent enrollment and their proportion of total facility square footage. This methodology is consistent with the allocation distribution of the fiscal 2019 appropriation, with a minimum state allocation of $200,000 to each LEA. However, this year, because the enrollments were so unpredictable last year as a result of COVID-19, we're recommending use of the September 30, 2019 enrollments instead. These funds are not subject to the state local cost share formula. However, the local school systems are required to have local funds available for the payment of cost in excess of the state allocation and ineligible project cost. Are there any questions regarding this grant program?
Any questions for Kim? Make the motions, Kim, please.
Okay. The motion is to approve the School Safety Grant Program Administrative Procedures Guide pending non-substantive edits by staff, to direct staff to solicit school safety grant program projects from LEAs and the Maryland School for the Blind with a maximum total allocation of $10 million. Each LEA's distribution will be based on a combination of their proportion of total 2019 enrollment and their proportion of total facility square footage, with every LEA receiving a minimum allocation of $200,000, and to delegate authority to approve eligible projects within the total LEA allocation to IAC staff and IAC designees, with a report of project allocation submitted to the IAC at regularly scheduled meetings.
Good job. Your motion. Mr. Lombardo, your second?
Second.
Secretary McCord. Any discussion on the issue? All in favor, say aye or raise your hand.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 8, cancellation of FY 2020 project allocation to Baltimore City Mary G. Faring School. Jamie?
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the commission. It's good to see you all.
You too.
I'm before you all to deliver item 8, an action item, and that is the cancellation of one FY 2020 CIP project allocation. First, I'll provide some background, then stand for questions, and at your discretion, read the motion. Item 8 can be found on page 157 of the meeting agenda. In accordance with the education article, capital improvement program projects must be contracted within 2 years of project approval. Baltimore City Public Schools did not contract one FY 2020 CIP project allocation for the renovation addition of Marie G. Faring number 203 within 2 years. Because City Schools did not contract the project before June 30, 2021, the project allocation must be canceled. City Schools concurs with the cancellation of the project allocation. The FY 2022 CIP included an additional allocation of $2.496 million for the LEA from the LEA's reserved appropriation account for the project. The project is currently in the design phase and is expected to be contracted in fiscal year 2022. Staff recommends approval of the request to cancel the FY 2022 2020 CIP allocation for the renovation addition of Marie G. Faring PK through 8 number 203 as detailed in the motion. I'll stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions for Jamie? Do I hear a motion?
All right. The motion is to approve the cancellation of one Baltimore City Public Schools FY 2020 CIP project allocation for the renovation addition of Marie G. Faring PK through 8 number 203 and to transfer the allocation of $1.5 million to the statewide account reserved for Baltimore City Public Schools.
Thank you. A little ahead of the game there. I hear a motion. Ms. Eberhardt, second. Secretary Churchill. Any more discussion? All in favor, say aye. Raise your hand. Okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
It's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Item number 9, FY 2022 CIP amendment for Harford County, Arabia.
Yes. In May, the IAC approved an estimated state share of $4.2 million for the Harford County Bel Air Middle School roof replacement project. Shortly thereafter, the county notified staff that the final total budget for the project came in lower, which decreased the state share for this project to $2.4 million and leaves $1.8 million remaining. According to Harford County, improved market conditions and increased competition amongst roof contractors accounts for the lower project budget. Since the chiller and pneumatic controls project at Abingdon Elementary was deferred due to state fiscal constraints, the local education agency is requesting that the available funds be reallocated to this project. The table below provides a breakdown of the funding adjustments requested by the LEA. And if approved, the inclusion of funding for the FY22 Abingdon project, as well as the amount of funding that will remain in the county's reserved appropriations account. The reallocation of the CIP dollars is supported by the county executive and the Board of Education. Also, local funding is recommended in the county's proposed capital budget. Staff are in support of the LEA's request, and approval will allow them the ability to move forward with the project in a timely manner. Brett is available to answer any technical questions you may have.
Any questions? Now make the motion, Arabia.
Yes, the motion is to approve a request from Harford County Public Schools to rescind $1.8 million allocated to the Bel Air Middle School roof replacement project and transfer the funds to the prior year appropriations account reserved for Harford County, I apologize. And to amend the FY 2022 CIP to modify the project status of the Abingdon Elementary School project from a B status deferred to state due to state fiscal constraints to an A approved. Also to reallocate $1.2 million from Harford County prior year appropriations account to fully fund the Abingdon Elementary School chiller pneumatic controls project.
Thank you. Your motion.
So moved.
So moved.
Secretary McCord, seconded by Mr. Lombardo. Any more discussion on this issue? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you.
It's unanimous.
Item 10, FY 2020 and FY 2022 CIP amendment for Queen Anne's County.
Yes.
Maybe you're up again.
Okay. In fiscal year 2020, the IAC approved through the Public School Construction Capital Improvement Program funding for the Queen Anne's Bayside and Kent Island roof replacement projects. However, bids for both projects came in higher than anticipated, and that's due to the pandemic and LEA staff turnover. Given the state's fiscal constraints, staff were unable to modify the budget to account for the increase in project costs, but the RFMs were able to work diligently with the LEA to come up with the following options for your consideration. The first is to request that the two roof projects be rescinded. Secondly, to transfer the available funds to the county's prior year appropriations account. And lastly, to amend the FY 2022 CIP to include and approve the two roof projects. If approved, the LEA will rebid the projects in an attempt to receive better pricing. This approach, as laid out, has the support of the county's Board of Education and the IAC staff. For technical questions, Brett is available.
Questions? So Harford County's roof came in low, but Queen Anne's came in high.
Yes.
Okay.
So Queen Anne's put their project out the bid right up against the summer, and what they were experiencing were higher. The roof contractors were experiencing higher lead times on materials, so they were moving their prices up because expecting expedited pricing, additional costs incurred. So they decided to, Queen Anne's, what they want to do is they want to pull the project out and then they want to rebid it this fall in order to get better pricing because they're anticipating the pricing will go down due to scheduling.
So that's your proposal to resolve this?
Yeah, the project will still bid this calendar year. Okay. They're just pushing the project off a little bit in order to try to avoid these higher costs coming in.
Any questions for Arabia or Brett?
Mr. Chair, if I could comment, you had made the comment on Harford. Harford's timing was perfect. They slipped in before we started seeing these big increases with material prices and delivery and that. So, and timing is everything in the construction industry, and that's why we suggested pushing this off. Yeah, that's right. Anyway, and it will work for Kent too, we believe. Thank you.
Arabia, you want to make the motion, please?
Yes, to approve a request from Queen Anne's County Public Schools to rescind $248,000 allocated to the FY 2022 Bayside Elementary School and $312,000 allocated to the FY 2020 Kent Island Elementary roof replacement projects, and to transfer the funds to Queen Anne's reserved prior year appropriations account. Also, to amend the FY 2022 CIP to include the Bayside Elementary and Kent Island Elementary partial roof replacement projects, and to reassign the funding totaling $560,000 from the prior year appropriations account to fully fund both projects.
Okay, your motion. Moved by Ms. Eberhardt, second by Mr. Lombardo. Any more discussion? All in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
Unanimously supported. Thank you.
Okay, last item, Montgomery County Bethesda Elementary site approval. Michael?
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the commission. We have one item this morning, which is a site approval for Montgomery County Public Schools for something known as the property known as the WMAL Bethesda Property Elementary School. So Montgomery County has the property elementary school site, which is located within the northeast quadrant of the intersection of Green Tree Road and Renita Lane Extended, which is just north of and adjacent to the Beltway Interstate 495 in Bethesda. This school property is currently owned by WCTL AMALYN LLC, which will be dedicated to the Montgomery County Board of Education at no for site plan number 8201-70170. This future school site is expected to serve the immediate and adjacent neighborhoods. The planned enrollment will be determined by future capital programming. And in this case, the Montgomery County Board of Education approved the site on January 9th of 2019, and state clearinghouse review was completed in June of 2021. I'll stand for any questions.
Michael, you broke up a little bit. I had a difficult time hearing you. Bob, is there anything that Michael said that we...
No, everything that he has said is included in the background document that is in your package.
Okay. Any questions for Michael? We'll make the motion, Michael, please.
Well, yeah, I apologize for that. I did get a note that the internet connection was unstable as I was speaking. But the motion is to approve the acquisition and use by the Montgomery County Board of Education of 4.3 acres of undeveloped land within the northeast quadrant of the intersection of Green Tree Road and Renita Lane Extended, north of Interstate 495 in Bethesda, Maryland, 20817, for the construction of a future elementary school, adhering to the actions identified in the State Clearinghouse Review, State Identifier MD 2021-0517-0399.
You hear a motion? Mr. Secretary Churchill, seconded by Ms. Avera. Any more discussion on this issue? All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you. That concludes the agenda. Bob, is there anything else we have to bring up?
Mr. Chair, nothing. I have nothing more to add. Thank you all, and congratulations on a great meeting, Mr. Chair.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for the committee being so easy. And excuse any of my mistakes that may have been made. But anyway, look forward to your help throughout the year. And anybody taking a vacation this month, have a great time and see you in August. Thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, members.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Bye-bye.
Thank you.